Dr. Pulikkottil, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Did I say that right?
You said it perfect. You said it like my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
All right.
dang.
We met
Props.
you at the Peptide Congress. This was in Vegas. I spoke there, and we were all attending and ran into you, and you told us a little bit about what you did and how you listened to the show. And you fascinating, some of the stories you were telling us.
Yeah.
You showed us a bunch of crazy pictures. I remember that much. That was
definitely.
Yeah. So for our audience, what do you do? Tell us a little bit about your background before we kind of.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much. I'm geeking out because you guys, I've listened to you for like 10 years, taking advice from you on finance, fitness, family, being a father. I have 2 young boys too. And I really appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit and each of your personalities. I feel like I'm in my college dorm right now with my bros.
Awesome.
That's what I feel like.
That's great.
So my name is Benson Pulikkottil, South Indian. Grew up in New York City. I'm the medical director of a double verified burn and reconstructive unit. And what I do is there's not many surgeons that kind of do what we do. There's a handful in the country. We do burn surgery. We do hardcore reconstruction. We're double boarded in plastic surgery, hand surgery, nerve surgery, microsurgery. Also, I have an aesthetic practice with my wife, Lily Daniele, who is the reason why I'm anything. Seriously. And my 2 partners, Ryan Anderson and Wojtek Przlecki, we created our own side aesthetic practice. And so one of the things I love about plastic surgery, it's the ability to change things immediately. And you guys have that same ability. You just don't see it. You sit in this room and you don't see the direct effect until somebody writes a comment or tells you. But you change lives in a similar way. I know people that listen to you that were suicidal and aren't anymore. They've found fitness. And in my world, I fix a tendon, a hand moves. So I get that awesome cause and effect. And so I take care of a full gamut of really, really traumatized, sick patients. And I have an awesome hospital, Swedish hospital in Englewood, Colorado, that from the administrative level from the CEO to the maintenance worker, they all care about patients. They care about our program. And they care about me, and I care about them. And we are able to take care of some of the hardest, sickest things in the country and in the world.
How does a kid in New York growing up decide, I'm going to go into plastic surgery like that? I mean, did you watch a movie or something like that? I mean, that's like a different type of profession to land on.
You know, I really feel like success is a lot of luck and just jumping into some opportunity. And my dad always told me, if the window of opportunity is open, even a crack, you jump through it. And I've always taken that approach. I think a pivotal point in my life was when I was in 5th grade. There was a science fair, and I wanted to do something on the heart. So my dad took me to a butcher shop. We got a goat heart, and I took red food dye, and they had left for the day. And I was like, I want to make this thing pump. And so there's no YouTube, there's no internet. I'm going to be 47 this year. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think that at that time you had Funkin' Wagnalls. We didn't have Britannica.
Dude, I had those.
Yeah, Funkin' Wagnalls.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had like multiple editions of the same one too.
Yeah, Funkin' Wagnalls was like the.
I actually didn't know that.
It was like the multi-meal of encyclures.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
They were the less.
I was going to say, we had
expensive
Britannia.
version.
I didn't know that. World Book.
You'd get them for free if you when you go shopping. So
Yeah.
like you'd buy some milk and you want Funkin' Wagnalls. We had like the same number 12.
Dude.
You know?
It's so funny.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was a
We
thing.
had a whole set, dude.
Oh yeah, we did
had
too.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so I'd look this stuff up, and what I ended up doing was I ended up taking a fish pump, fishing from an aquarium,
Yeah.
turning like a setting on it to make it intermittent, and I sewed it to the heart. And my mom came in and she started crying, and I was like, because I took her sewing stuff. And I was like, I'm sorry. She's like, no, this is amazing. She's looking at this hemline. How do you know how to sew? And I played football when I was a little kid, and I'd have to sew on jerseys and fix things. And so that was like the first, and I won first place in that science fair.
Wow.
And so
What a moment for a kid, right?
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, to watch red food dye fill up this heart, and it wasn't perfect, but it looked really cool for a fifth grader.
Today's giveaway is the RGB bundle. If you want to win, here's how you enter. You got to leave a comment below this video. The first 24 hours that we drop it. You also have to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. If you win, you'll know in the comment section. That's where we'll notify you. Also, everything's 60% off right now. Every MAPS program, every bundle of programs, everything 60% off across the board. It's mapsfitnessproducts.com. There's no limit. You just have to use the code Black Friday every time you purchase. By the way, every purchase enters you into a contest. 2 people get a week vacation at the Mind Pump Park City House. 15 people are going to win personal training from our trainers for 3 months. 60% off. Again, right now, mapsfitnessproducts.com. Use the code Black Friday. Back to the show.
I think a pivotal moment in my life was when, my mom's friend told us about this school in New York City called Regis High School. And this is a really special high school. In this high school, if you take a test, it's Catholic boys. And if you do well on the test, you get an interview. It's thousands of people apply for this. And if you get past the first 250, you get an interview, and then it's 125 out of that, and that's your class. And this high school is so cool because it's right next to Central Park. Art class was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. The gym was in Central Park. I mean, it's unbelievable. And it was the first time I was around. I grew up with a lot of Latin, Black, Jamaican, Trinidadian, Indian people, and it was the first time I was really around Americans and like Polish and Italian and Russian. And New York City at that time in the mid-90s was this just bastion of music, art, culture, food. Everything was just so cool. And in this high school, I learned all about myself, and I learned about music, learned about sports, fitness, but it's such a rigorous high school. And getting in, and I didn't crush high school. I just did a little bit above average, and that was hard to do. And this whole community of dudes, we still keep in contact. Yesterday I texted them that I'm going to be on this show, and they're all like, dude, you're going to be great. And so we still keep in contact with each other. But my junior year, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I always liked medicine. We didn't grow up with money. My parents, my dad was an accountant. My mom was a nurse, but no doctors. I have an older sister and a younger sister who they're doctors now. But my guidance counselor, John Vigan, he said, hey, Benson, if one cool thing to do is apply at a high school for some of these medical programs. And I didn't know what that was. And what that is essentially, if you apply and you get in, you get a seat to medical school. You don't have to take the MCAT. You just have to do your 4 years of college, 4 years of med school, which is huge to get in. It was extremely competitive. Several thousand people applied, and myself with 7 other people got in, and we're still friends because it's like a unit. And I went to Siena College, played football over there. I had a great college experience, learning about sports, learning about fitness, learning about studying, and really intermingling all these three so I could be successful. A really cool part about the program is this particular program, the Siena Albany Medical College program, is really big on volunteering. And so they pay for you to go away 2 times. And I went 3 times, 2 times to the Dominican Republic in children's, essentially like a nutrition center where there's really malnourished kids, and we were taking care of them, we were feeding them, we were changing them. It was cool. And the third time I went back to where we're from in India, and I learned a lot about my culture there. And in medical school is weird. It's like a strange place because you think you know what you want to do. I wanted to be a medicine doc. I wanted to be a nephrologist. And so my first medical rotation, so in your 3rd year, you do a bunch of clerkships. It's where you essentially get a taste of each specialty. And so the medical doc who my first rotation, and I'll say his name because he was so pivotal in my life, Alan Roush. He's a hematologist, and he had me buy this huge book. Remember, we have like no money, and these 2 books are like $1,000. I bought these books. I read as much as I could. They're called Harrison's. And he at the end of the week wanted me to present to him, and so he picked a topic.
A 1,000-page book, and you.
No, he would tell me the topic.
Oh, okay.
And there's different topics.
Damn, that's a lot to get through in a week.
Choose your own adventure type stuff, you know. But he would pick a topic. Like the first topic was sarcoidosis, and I picked the topic, and I did my talk, and I presented to the entire office, and he was like, "Listen, that sucked." And I was like,
"That's awesome." All right.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Dude, you got to get more into it. You're just doing bullet points." And I was like, "Okay." And the next week was some kind of nephropathy. And he's like, "It's not better, man. Like, if you're gonna do nephrology, you really need to get deeper into this and understand it more." And I'm like, "Okay." And every week I got a little bit better. And I thought at some point he was like showing me pity. But at the end of it, he was like, "Are you sure you want to be a nephrologist?" And I'm like getting pissed now because, yeah.
You're like, "Yeah, I'm doing all the work. I'm
doing the work. That's what I want to do." And he's like, "I don't think you're going to do well at that." I said, "Okay. Have you thought about surgery?" And I'm like, "Man, the surgeons at that time are like these mean guys just walking around yelling at med students." It's like, I'm not into that. Not into it at all. And so then my surgery rotation came. And on my surgery rotation, I remember these experiences because they were so monumental for me. There's a rotation called vascular surgery. This is where you operate on the vessels, and the med students don't rotate on this. If you get this for 2 weeks, they pretty much take off because they're so busy, the surgeons, they don't even keep track of having a med student. But I was like, you know what? I'm never going to do surgery. I'm going to take this seriously. So I went in, and it's a young Indian doc, cool dude. He's playing Red Hot Chili Peppers. I still remember.
In the OR?
In the OR, it was the Californication album, and he's playing, and he's like, "Hey, man." And I'm like, "Hey." And my hat's like on backwards because I didn't know how to put on a surgical hat. It was the first case with him. And he's like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" It's like, "Nephrology." And he's like, "Okay, cool, man. We're doing a fem-pop, which is where you take a bypass graft and you bypass the femoral artery to the popliteal artery." He's like, "Have you ever sewn before?" And I'm like, "Yeah, in 5th grade when I did a science project."
And I sewn a fish pump to the heart. That counts.
And so he's talking to me about like surgery, and he's like, "Do you want to throw some stitches?" I said, "Sure." And so he had part of the anatomy, and he's putting his hand on me and guiding my hand, and I'm doing this, and he'd let go for a second, and I'm just sewing. He's like, "Dude, have you sewn before?" And I was like, "Just, nothing crazy." He's like, "You're pretty good at this." And that was like sparked it for me. And I was like, huh, interesting. And my rotations for the rest of that year were in transplant surgery. So I was doing hardcore transplant just cases as a student, like really liking. Then I applied for general surgery, and I got into a program called UMD&J in New Jersey. This is in Newark, New Jersey. I don't know if you know Newark, but it's a tough town, tough. And in the last rotation in medical school, I rotated with the plastic surgeon, and I'd already matched into general surgery. And this guy was doing cool things. He was like fixing huge holes in patients after cancer and like putting fingers back on. And I had never seen anything like this, but I had already matched in general surgery. So I was a little sad because I'm like, man, kind of want to do plastics, but I didn't have the super uber numbers that my wife had to get in right out of medical school. And so day one of general surgery, I'll never forget, I went to Mark Granick, who's the head of plastic surgery, and I was like, "Hey, I want to be a plastic surgeon." And he's like, "Dude, chill. You're like an intern on day one on July 4th. Like, like do general surgery." Because there was a big stigma in talking about plastic surgery because everyone thinks plastic surgery is breast augmentation, fillers, and all that stuff.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I befriended a lot of the plastic surgery residents, and I'm in the ER like getting these appendectomies set up and doing bowel work and all this stuff. And these guys roll in, white coats, says plastic surgery, glasses, hair slicked back. I'm like, oh man, I want to be one of those guys. And I didn't know anything about plastic surgery really. But I liked the concept of what these little experiences. And what's funny is a lot of doctors pick their pathway that way. It could be a doc like you buy somebody a coffee and all of a sudden they like you and you have a lot of influence on people, just like in your field. And so then I started thinking about how to get into plastic surgery. And one of the ways is having a really strong CV and doing research. And so my second year of residency, there's an opportunity to do research. And most people stay because there was no option to leave Rutgers to do research outside. And I had a spot with the chairman, guy from Boston, Dr. Deitch. And somebody told me, they're like, dude, you're doing surg-onc research to get plastics. It makes no sense. You need to do plastics research. But there were no opportunities at UMD&J, which is now Rutgers. So I talked to Dr. Deitch and I was like, hey, listen, I have an opportunity in Pittsburgh. And I got this opportunity because I emailed every program director in the country. This is like hundreds of people. And only 2 people responded, Cleveland Clinic and the director at Pittsburgh. Said, hey, we have an unpaid research spot for you if you want for 2 years. It'll help bolster your CV, whatever. It's in face and hand transplantation. So I went back to my chair. I was very scared because he's this like intimidating Boston, very famous surgeon. He's like, okay, you can do it, no problem. And he shook my hand and I broke my contract. That was the first time anyone has broken a contract because if something happens to him and I want to come back after my research years, there's no spot. So again, another pivotal period was in Pittsburgh doing face and hand transplant work. We were transplanting limbs from mice, like dark mice to light mice, rats, taking, facial structure from one rat to the other rat, and doing all these immunologic medications to help prevent rejection. And the peak of this was in my second year. The transplant our team had the first double arm human transplant. And my responsibility was, we're peons in the lab, but what was cool was, and it's sad because these are always, it's one of the reasons why I moved away from transplant, because it's amazing to get a transplant, but the person who donated was usually some traumatic event. And this was a 17-year-old kid or something like that had an accident, I believe, or a younger person. And we harvested the arms. And these are the surgeons, the attendings at the time. My role was to take vertebral bodies, which are the spine, bring them to the bone marrow center, process them, get the cells out of them, bring them back to inject into the...
This is part of the
recipient. Yeah, to help them from rejecting. So I got into this, and this is what got me into plastic surgery, the reconstructive aspect of it, like working on hands, working on tendons, doing this microsurgery. These sutures that you use for these rats are 4th or 5th the size of a human hair under a microscope. And I'm like, holy
crazy
crap, I can do this with my hands. And so that point, I went back to general surgery in Rutgers, and I had a really good resume, and, God was on my side, and I was able to get into the #1 program at the time for plastic surgery, UT Southwestern in Dallas. Now, this is like the Navy SEALs of plastic surgery. And when I went in, I was definitely shell-shocked because they expect you from day one to not just have the knowledge base, but be technically superb. And so what I did was I remember I just heard a podcast about you guys talking about Goggins, for example, and how some of that may not be beneficial, but that's the mentality I took. I was going to be the best at what I do and learn it so well. So for 3 years at UT Southwestern, I'd go home, I cut up gummy worms, I would practice tendon work with gummy worms. I made a little microscope out of a Bounty Quicker Upper innard thing with 2 lenses. I was practicing, I was learning, because technically I was good. It's just the knowledge we didn't have, because you're competing with people that, like my wife Lily, had started plastic surgery much earlier. And by the time the general surgery and the plastic surgery teams meet, there's a knowledge gap. And so I really focused on getting knowledge and working hard, and was ultimately really successful there, to the point where a few months ago they asked me to come back after the 10-year alumni event, and it was just full circle. They were so proud, and I was so proud to be part of that place. But when I finished there, I realized that that's not enough. Like, you have to have some additional specialization, and to get privileges in hospitals, to take call, to have a financial edge, to have a competitive edge and get patients and not be irrelevant. I did a hand fellowship, and that's an additional year of training in Pittsburgh. And so after 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, and 11 years of training, I finally took my first job at 37. And the best part about this is the last year when I was in Pittsburgh was one of the coolest years. Lily and I were married, but we were living separately. She was doing a hand fellowship in Dallas, and I was doing it in Pittsburgh. I lived in a 110 square foot apartment above a garage.
It's a bathroom, bro.
It was this big. It was this big. But some of the most just simple times that you look back on, and it was great. And right after that, we got this job in Denver as burn surgeons. At the time, there was a different director. They gave me the position after a year, and it's just been full on.
When did you meet Lily? Where was she at?
Yeah, so this is a great story. So when I was in the lab in Pittsburgh,
Okay.
Lily wanted to be a family practice doctor, and she had a similar interest in plastic surgery. So she told her parents, Persian family, very, very controversial. She told them, I want to take an extra year off of med school and do just a year of rotating in plastic surgery. And she did that. And so she rotated in Pittsburgh when I was a lab resident, and I'm focused on transplanting rat legs. And I look, and she's presenting. I'm like, oh, pretty cute girl. And that's all I thought about it. And she makes fun of me because I asked her out to some horror movie on a taco night, and she said no, but whatever. And then what happened was she needed to get back to Hopkins. She went to Hopkins undergrad, and on her last day, she asked for a ride. And I was happy to do it, but also it was stressful because I had zero money, and I'm thinking, man, I gotta pay for lunch here. And she actually bought me lunch because I didn't get paid in the lab at all. But randomly, what happened after she left, she matched in plastic surgery at Rutgers, and we just started talking every night for how all of you guys know, you talk for hours and you're talking about just random things. And
did you reach out to her? Or did she reach out to you? What was the first?
What really happened was she matched in plastic surgery. She was happy, but not ecstatic.
What does that mean? She matched in plastic surgery.
Perfect. Yeah, I feel like I'm.
No.
Yeah, I got to explain.
That's why I'm here. Don't trip.
No, thank you. So this is why I say things are so random in medicine.
Yeah.
So when you finish any of these things, let's say you finish medical school, there's a day called Match Day.
Okay.
Where you put a list of the places you want to go for residency. And on March, I think it's 17th, everybody in the country opens an envelope, and this is where you go.
Just so randomly?
Random.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, you can try to they like you, and that you hope that it's
So if
what
they
you
pick
want.
your envelope and you pick them, you matched.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so that goes through every phase. So whether it's when I got into UT Southwestern, that was my number one. That's why I was so amped to get in. And then Pittsburgh for hand. And so Lily had a list of places she wanted to go for plastic surgery, and she was very happy to match, but wasn't ecstatic. My buddy and I in the lab, Paula Fruz, who's a very famous Miami cosmetic surgeon, I remember when she called me and she's not super excited. And I'm standing outside the lab. I'm like, hey, Lily, that's amazing. that you got in. And I'm watching Paul. Paul's like trying to put a central line in a pig, and the pig is crapping on his leg. And he's like, and I'm like, Lily, you know what? Like, any of us would just want this spot. Like, you should just be really happy. And it was kind of mean. But I'm sitting there, I'm like, in this lab, just toiling, just wanting this opportunity. And so she really took that to heart and crushed residency. And I went back as a general surgery resident, and she went back as a plastics resident. And she was pivotal in me getting into UT Southwestern, because the day of the UT Southwestern interview, I was late because I was driving from another interview. And I'd already kind of not wanted to go there because I heard it's so intense and it's just, it's a beatdown. I wanted a more gentlemanly approach. And as I was listening to them talk about plastic surgery, I was like, this really resonates with me. The discipline, it's very organized. You get a full throttle experience. And I called Lily. I'm like, Lily, this place is awesome. She's like, yeah, I know, dummy. Like, this is where you should go. And I'm like, I don't have an interview with the chairman, Dr. Rorick. And so she was like, well, you need to go meet him. I'm like, well, the interview's over. She's like, knock on the door where they're deliberating about the candidates and tell them you want to be at that place. I'm like, dude, like, I'm going to be interrupted. Knock on the door. So I knocked on the door. He came out, and I'm like, Dr. Rourke, I want to be at this place just like a robot. Yeah. And it all worked out. It really all worked out.
That's great.
So,
Tell us about the pictures you showed us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
because this was pretty remarkable. And
yeah. Did you see them all? Or?
Hey, I know Justin.
It was the bear attack.
Yeah.
I think
So tell us about this.
Yeah.
Because first off, some of the most challenging, and correct me if I'm wrong, areas of the body to operate on are the hands. Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult. And then trying to reconstruct a face, because as humans, we can tell when something's a little off on a face.
100%.
You have to be precise, unlike doing surgeries inside the body, where if it's working, it's working.
It's working, yeah.
When it comes to the face, if something's a little off, like, and people really, their self-esteem really gets attached to that. So it's
100%.
very difficult. So you talk about the bear attack, dude, and what you had to do with that.
Sure, that was one of our first cases. We had a friend who was a trauma surgeon on call, and he called me up and he said, hey, man, because there's a specific element of call called replant. Replant means when a part is off your body, you put it back on. You replant it back on. And we were on replant call for hands. He's like, hey, I got an interesting replant for you guys. I'm like, what is it? It's a guy whose nose and upper lip got ripped off by a grizzly. Are you guys interested in it? And I'm like, hell yeah. And my wife is like, yeah, let's do it. But there's also a facial plastics call that's supposed, and this will come into play later because they were upset that we got the call. Kind of, they should have had it, but whatever. So we go in, and there's this guy. The story is his name is out there. So his name is Lee Brook. He's given up all of the privacy things because he's a speaker. He's done all that stuff. And Lee, I remember looking at him in the ER. He had no face. His all I saw were two eyes. His teeth were exposed. No mid-face. Wow. Just blood everywhere.
Yeah. What do you have to work with? It's not like the lip and nose are just. I mean, do you have pieces of that, or do you have to come up with your own?
So there was a bucket, and in the bucket was his nose and his upper lip. And the story is, he had hunted 2 elk in Wyoming, and killed one, quartered it, brought it back. Came several hours later to get the other one and looked, and it was like 3 a.m, saw that it had moved. And then he jumped off of an embankment onto a mother bear with cubs.
Jumped onto the bear?
Onto the bear. And so,
oh my God.
You didn't know that it was
what
there.
A bad day.
What are the odds?
And so 3 a.m, that's why, right?
3 or 4 a.m, and he got totally attacked. And he was, and we could talk about the differences in his personality and mine, and we're really good friends now. But he was telling us at the time, like, after the fact, that he was stabbing the bear in the face, and the bear, bent the knife, and he was shooting the bear, and there was no gun. And we're just like, whatever, dude, like, sure. They went back years later and found the knife, found the gun, found all this stuff. So he was telling us the truth, and we've become really good friends. So he jumps on this bear, gets attacked. He and his brother, I think brother-in-law, are there, and he wakes up and he's looking at his mid-face. That's what this portion is called, your mid-face, on the floor. Picks it up, puts it in his pocket, comes down the mountain with his brother. They get flown to the local ER, and then they get flown to us. And so I'm looking at this piece in a bucket with Lily, and I was going to chuck it, get rid of it, and start afresh. And she's like, hey, listen, like, let's look at it under the microscope and see if there's any blood vessels. And so we clean it off, and there's the angular artery, which is it's an artery that goes on both sides right here that we see. And doing hand surgery, this is why it's a beautiful thing to have a lot of training and a lot of different, just the way you guys do different exercises, you can translate it to different elements in your life. Hand surgery, having that hand surgery fellowship was really important, because on people who have arthritis of the base of the thumb, you make an incision here, get rid of the arthritic bone and fix the tendons and do things. But as you access it, there's a blood vessel there, the radial artery and the vein associated with it. So what if we took this piece and connected it there temporarily to start working on the face?
So you took, hold on a second. So, by the way, are the hands particularly vascular?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is perfect. So what you did is you took the part of the face and attached it to the artery here in the hand to keep it alive.
Right here.
To keep it going.
To keep it going until we could stabilize his, because we're working with trauma at this time.
Because that was my question, is how do you keep that tissue from going necrotic or bad
That's exactly
or whatever?
right.
Is it good to put it like, so for instance, if this happens and you have access to ice, is that like the move, or is it just how you transport it?
That's a great question. So we give lectures to EMS all the time, because in Colorado you get stuff sent from Texas. I mean, I get stuff sent from Cali, I get stuff from New York. And these, you have to specifically tell them that, let's say a finger is amputated, the way to transport that is not in direct ice. You have to put it in like some kind of gauze in a Ziploc bag over a slurry, because the ice crystallizes like the cellular components of
It destroys it.
and so you won't know until you connect it, and you're like, why isn't blood flowing? Because it's essentially frozen. So this facial segment, not only was it, I think it was put in ice, but it was like 12 hours later. So we had such low hope that this would work. And so
And what are you looking for when you attach it to the artery of the hand? Is it going to work? Is the blood going to go through?
Get like color back to it or something?
Yeah, it's like a gray piece of tissue. And I'm sitting there, we're doing it together. I'm put the artery together, and having a good vein was really hard. We finally got the vein together, and there's these two clamps, one on the artery and one on the vein. We removed the vein clamp, and then when I removed the artery clamp,
Let's see what happens.
it turned pink. And Lily and I looked at each other, and we knew that moment our life changed. And the reason why I say that was, this is a case that had never happened before, and we were so young at that time and so fresh, and we took a break at that point, and we sat on his stretcher outside the room, and we actually both started like kind of crying. We were like, holy crap, Lily, this worked. And now we have to figure out the rest of his face.
Wow.
And so
Now, back up for a second.
Yeah.
How would you even reconstruct a face without tissue like that? Where would you get it from?
Yeah, so that's the reason why. So Lily's also a craniofacial. Lily did plastic surgery, craniofacial surgery, hand surgery, pediatric surgery. So she had all these ideas, and she was thinking very rapidly. She's like, listen, if we do this from scratch, this person's going to look like crap and need a face transplant. And so we have this segment, which is so hard to make. It's so hard to make a nose. Why don't we try to use it? That was her logic behind it. But if it's gone, let's say you don't have that segment, you take tissue, like you can take your rectus with the blood supply, the artery and the vein, and you can kind of stuff that. This is not an aesthetic thing at this point.
Right.
This is going to be to save their life or temporize them for an eventual face transplant at one of these transplant centers. But we had the piece. And so we really wanted to try to figure out how to make it work. And so when it lit up, that's what they say, when this tissue gets blood flow. It lit up, and we went back, and we were like, hey, we got to figure out the face now. So Lily did a bunch of bony work, put plates on. We washed out the face together, and we put dressings on, and we just let that chill. That night, the flap, the nasal segment became purple. And so what that means is when you have arterial blood going in, that's oxygenated. Venous blood, the vein takes it away. That's deoxygenated. So the vein had some issue. So we went back in, we tried to fix the vein, but it was still, there was a purplish hue to the tissue. And if you leave it like that, the tissue clots off and becomes necrotic, like you said. So this is where we go old school and we have to use medicinal leeches. And so what leeches...
Because of the anticoagulant effects of the...
Yes, exactly.
Suck it, huh?
So,
well, no, they have compounds that prevent clots.
Yeah, it's a compound that breaks clots, but also the mechanical act of removing that deoxygenated blood allows, in time, it takes about 12 days is what the studies say, for new veins to take this. So we were leeching him. Nurses were like putting a leech on him every couple hours, taking it off for like 12 days.
Wow, that's crazy.
In the ICU.
Do you just have leeches laying around there?
There's a number called 1-800-LEECHES.
Shut up.
Seriously, look it up. Look it up. I swear.
It's in my top 10.
It's a real thing. You call
1-800-LEECHES.
Pharmacy comes and they send you a bunch of sterile leeches.
Okay, so I'm trying to envision this.
Tagline, we suck.
we suck hard.
Okay, this guy is I'm sure laying in a bed and his nose is attached to his hand the whole time. Is that what this is? That's wild.
But now
that was a thing.
No, and we should look at the pictures. We'll keep them clean for you at some point, just because we're so proud of this because it's just
hadn't been done, right?
It hadn't been done, but it's like it's a husband and wife team just trying to figure this. It's just it's a storybook for us. And then his face was like a big gap here, and so we got him through that first surgery, and now we're trying to figure out what to use to close this gap, to just get him stable, to heal. And one of the techniques is, it's called free flap. A free flap is a piece of tissue that has an artery and a vein. So you take it off, it almost looks like an island with two tails, artery and vein. And the whole body has these all around them. Like your body is perfused and has blood flow in these different territories, and you just have to know where they are. And one of them is by the leg here. And so when people have cancer of the jaw or, mandibular issues, one of the treatments for it is the ENT surgeon will take the mandible out and you need a new mandible. So we take the fibula out from here to here, a segment that doesn't really affect your ankle or knee too much. We take the bone out with the overlying skin, artery and vein. We cut it according to 3D constructs to match this segment, and we plug it into the carotid vessels.
Does it? So they then have a piece missing from there, but the tibia does the job.
The tibia does the job. You lose. They say there's 15%.
Sure,
is what you lose, but honestly, with our patients, I don't really see that.
Yeah,
and so that is again, plastic surgery. It's awesome because you don't have to get so stuck in the text, the funk and wagnalls.
Yeah.
You get to, if you know anatomy and you can logically think and you're creative.
I was just going to say, you get really creative.
You get creative. Yeah. And so we didn't, the rest of his body had bite marks and cuts. So all we had was this segment, which wasn't ideal. He didn't need bone. We just needed the skin. So we took the skin with the blood vessel. We also took the bone and put it in the fridge just in case some of the bony work didn't heal down the future. And we put a big plug over his face. So he did not look human for a while. And he had this patch here of skin, 2 eyes, and a lower lip. And we let him stabilize. The trauma team saved his life at Swedish, and it's a level 1 trauma center. And those guys were amazing. And now he's outpatient, and now we can start taking off the save your life hat and put on the reconstructive kind of artistic.
Wow, so that's just like a patch to bridge.
Yeah. To bridge.
You have to wait till he's like, okay.
Yeah. He had hand fractures. He had all this stuff that needed to be taken care of.
How long does that take before you can then, so how long does he look like that before?
So we had him, that thing was on his arm for like 2 years.
Oh, shit.
Wow. Yeah.
Wait. His nose is attached to his hand for 2 years?
2 years.
Get the fuck out of here.
100%.
So he's walking around like what I mean or is he in the hospital the whole time?
No, he's really funny, man. He'll be at restaurants in Pennsylvania and be like, I gotta blow my nose.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He's the funniest guy, man. He's a guy you may want to have interview one day. But so then now we went to a major conference in microsurgery, the American Society of Reconstructive Microsurgery, and we found two of the thought leaders, these gray-haired guys that do a lot of this stuff, and we were waiting in line to talk to them because everyone wants their like autograph or something. And we just had, I drew on a napkin our case that I wanted to present. Like, this is where we're at. This is what we're thinking. And so both of them were like, huh. And we're like, well, what do you think? They're like, you guys did a good job. We have no idea what to do.
Good luck.
And so we're like, oh, thanks. And so, interestingly, I didn't mention this. He had a cleft lip and a cleft nose. So part of that lip and part of the nose had a little mark in it. And over the 2 years, that half got necrotic and died. So we were left with this half nose, and we were like, what are we going to do with this? This doesn't look like a nose anymore. And so first things first, he needed an upper lip. And so this is also a cool picture. Lily found one paper that talked about putting a tissue expander, which is a balloon that expands the scalp. And over a period of 3 months, you get, looks like an extra skull up here, a big bubble of tissue. And so
stretches it.
It stretches it. You put a little fluid every couple weeks. And you
What's that for? Is that to use the tissue, or is that for a different procedure?
For the tissue, because there's two blood vessels here, the superficial temporal artery, one here, one here. So she essentially planned out a headband flap, like a headband, drew it out, put the expander underneath, and then we cut it like this and just brought it as an upper lip. Hair was even growing down. And then plastic surgery is cool because you essentially do small moves. We do a big move and then you whittle it away. And so we removed the two segments, and now he had this big handlebar mustache, which was his scalp.
Wow.
And he loved it. He loved it.
Wow. It's like growing
So
straight
crazy.
down.
I'm gonna show
What
you
a
all this,
trip.
man. You got to see it. It's amazing because he sends us a picture, and we were like, at this point, we are like kind of hoping he didn't want to use the forearm because it's so hard. We're like, maybe you want to do a prosthetic, and because a prosthetic, they're awesome looking, but it's a prosthetic.
Yeah.
It's like the Groucho Marx thing you were telling me. But he ultimately wanted to use that tissue. So now we had to really think this through. So using so it's on his arm, and we used the existing radial tissue, the arm tissue, and kind of created that other half with it. And took the blood vessels, the radial artery, and the vein with it out, plugged it on his nose, and sewed it to his neck vessels. When we did that and put it the right way down, it turned blue. And so we moved things around in the neck, and whatever we did, it would not stay the right color. So the only way it would stay the right color is we had to put it upside down. And so for 3 weeks, he had his nose upside down. And there's a really cool video of us taking him to the OR and me releasing it and turning it right side down because it had enough time to mature the blood vessels. And so,
how did you figure that out? Are you just moving it around?
crazy.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to see.
you put there's a little machine called a Doppler machine that lets you listen to the blood flow. And when you turned it, it would go away. And I'm like, damn.
We're gonna have to do this for a while.
Yeah. And so
How's his breathing and everything? Like how
he's got a tracheostomy.
Yeah, trach.
Yeah, he's
okay.
got a trach. And so he finishes that course. He's in the ICU, and he puts a picture of himself on Facebook. He's so thankful. He's like, my docs, they did this, this happened, this. But it looked like a big ball on his nose. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Lily and I are like, it's not a good nose. And so we started thinking, what if we make this the internal part of your nose? And so we went with that plan now. And we used rib cartilage, took a piece of rib to give him what's called the dorsum, ear cartilage to give him the shape of the nostrils. And now he needed a cover because you're looking at innards now because we again whittled this down to the inner portion, and we needed something to cover it. So again, we used that expander, we put it under his forehead, we drew out a nose like this shape, and over a period of a month, we released it, flipped it down, kept it connected. So there's blood flow going like this.
Wow.
And then at 3 weeks, we released it. And so,
So wild. Do that.
Man, I know.
it's amazing. It's amazing that this works.
That it works,
Yeah.
that you can stay alive the whole process.
Yeah.
That like that's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
That
You
I
guys
mean,
can troubleshoot your whole way through all
from
that.
beginning
really
to end,
is.
how long did this whole process take for this guy?
Probably like 2.5, 3 years. And even now, like there's still little things we tweak. Like every now and then he has a little thickness in his nose. So he has so one of the most beautiful experiences was he had his nose, he's sitting there in the ICU. And this was essentially, we thought, going to be functional for breathing, but he'd lost his sense of smell, and we thought, and it was really for aesthetics. Because these patients, they're not trying to be on the cover of GQ, man.
No.
What they're trying to do is just get milk,
Yeah.
get gas, and not be stared at.
Yeah.
Burn patients, trauma patients, that's all they want to do is live a normal life.
Yeah.
And so his wife was cutting an orange, and he was just like, "Hey, I smell an orange." And everyone freaked out because his olfactory sense, his smell was intact.
That's
So
remarkable.
Whoa.
It was unbelievable. And we didn't do anything for that. That just meant
That's
that the
remarkable.
bear didn't attack it.
This episode is brought to you by Element, the best electrolyte powder in the world. This is the one everybody's trying to copy, but they're the original. Go check them out. Go to drinkelementT.com/mind pump. If you get something, they'll send you a free sample pack of their most popular drink mix flavors. Back to the show. How do you work? So burn has to be the other incredibly challenging thing, because how do you get skin that was severely burned to, I don't know, grow back or look like it wasn't severely burned? What does that look like? Is that still very difficult, almost impossible? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about our burn unit, I'm a super confident guy about this. We are the best in the world. And the reason why I say that is we're double board certified plastic reconstructive surgeons, 4 of us. We love each other. We love taking care of patients, and we love complexity and really getting people back. We love when we get pictures of these patients doing the stuff that they used to do. So when you come in with the big burn, it's not necessarily the burn that kills you. It's the inflammatory cascade afterwards that gets you. So kidney shutting down, infection, lung issues. So back in the day, the way they treated big burns was if you had a big burn, like 30, 40, 50, 60, they just did wound care, and everybody was dying. There was a fire, I think in the 40s or 50s in Florida, where multiple people got burned. I mean, I think maybe 100 or more. And the surgeons at that time thought about, what if we just excise the source of this the source where the inflammation starts? So they'd cut away the burned skin and put dressings on. They
And then
noticed,
let it heal from there.
well, do that first and see what happens. The patients were living at that point. It'll never heal on its own unless it's a really small burn that the skin around it can close. But if you have a big burn, you need skin from your body on it in some fashion. So fast forward to what we do now. So now if a patient comes in, 20, 30, 40, 50% burn, we stabilize them. The resuscitation, we give them fluids, we watch their hearts, and our ICU doctors are just badass. They just come in and they save people that you think would die in transport. So now it's our part, and usually the second day we go in and we essentially just take a scalpel or an instrument and remove that burn until you get to healthy bleeding tissue. Now it's about temporizing them. So we in our unit use donated human skin. And I put that, a recent post on my Instagram was holding a sheet of human skin that was like this big that gets donated. It's a gift. It's a real blessing to have this stuff. And we essentially put this on to temporize them. The body will do everything except accept it. So it'll start growing, it'll start healing, but it can't accept it because there's an immunologic barrier there. And so now, depending on the size of their burn, let's say they're like 30% burn, you have 70% of their body which is not burned that you can use to help transplant from that side onto your burn. So some cool things we do, anytime a burn over 30% comes, we take 2 specimens from the groin about that big, we send it off to a company. The company takes that skin and they make a really thin epithelial layer, very thin epithelial layer. So they're essentially making skin, but it's not full thick. It's not like
are they taking the cells and having
no,
it grow?
they take the epithelium.
Like they're thinning it, right?
Nope, they take it and put it in culture under a hood, and they just grow sheets of it in petri dishes.
Oh wow!
But it's like very, very, very thin.
Right.
The thing that kills these patients is infection. One of your best barriers for infection is skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we do is, and that takes about 3 weeks. So now we have the donated skin, and you have this cooking in the background. We start planning on optimizing nutrition, which is huge. This is what we talk about, creatine, those kind of things, vitamins, all that stuff really helps.
Are you giving them amino acids, protein? What are the things that help grow? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like they're on tube feeds that are optimized for protein. Their protein losses are just unbelievable when you don't have skin.
Yeah, I said that because the original studies on, when you look up the old studies on essential amino acids, branched chain amino acids, they were all done on burn victims.
Yeah.
It was all burn victims is where we got the data that it helps with some of the stuff.
And when you think about it in medicine, a lot of the advances happen in really violent and dark times, wars, big tragedies, things like that.
Huge need.
Yeah. And so now you have this patient, he or she has donated skin on. You bring them back, you change out the donated skin, and you find the areas where they have normal skin. And you take what's called a dermatome, which is essentially it looks like a tool that extremely thin slices of skin. So you put it on the normal areas and you harvest skin off of them. You put it through a machine called a mesher, which takes that skin and puts holes in it so you can stretch it out.
Wow.
And then you start covering them, right? At the same time you're covering them, you get that company to send you the thin sheets, and you can sometimes put that on top to help fill in those gaps. Sometimes, so if you don't have a lot of donor sites, let's say you're 80% burned, you only have 20% of your skin available, you take the skin, you mesh it. Now, there's different patterns. There's 1-to-1, which is like small holes. There's 8-to-1, which are huge holes. So you have, it looks like a sheet with just lines. Now, to help allow for those skin cells to close, that's when the company helps a lot with that thin skin in between, because it acts like a bridge.
How does because we met you, I met you at the peptide congress.
Sure, yeah.
So I'm assuming now you're looking at using peptides to accelerate or help this process, things like GHKCU and
BPC.
BPC 157, GHKCU, all of these things are awesome, but medicine is slow. If you noticed at that peptide conference, the people moving the needle aren't the docs necessarily. It's people like you guys talking about it. It's the people who are actually using it. And what I feel is just modern day medicine, there's so much red tape to get that stuff through. For me to even change a dressing kind of
in a different way
algorithm takes a lot of effort. So peptides aren't incorporated yet, but there is no doubt that that'll be the future of this stuff for healing. I mean, I used BPC. I had IT band syndrome for like 2 months. I did it for 2.5 weeks, went away completely. And so, I mean, I'm not here to like give medical advice about peptides, but just anecdotally for me, they've helped me. And I just see the way medicine is going.
So can you not? So right now you can't use it with patients.
You can't. You can't.
Wow!
Unless it was private. Because if it was like someone like, I'll pay out of pocket, do whatever.
Well, I was just saying, are you even allowed to do that? Like, hey, I can't recommend this to you, but I've heard or seen.
You can, and there's like uninformed people that have been doing that. I mean, in my aesthetic practice, I talk to patients about the benefits of peptides after a facelift, after aesthetic surgery, because they can go do their research and essentially, if they want, buy it on their own. And I can only tell them the risks, that there's no long-term studies on this, but there's no doubt that there's benefit in these peptides. It's just with medicine, you need to go through the randomized controlled trials. You need to ensure that they're not harming patients.
It's going to take a decade before.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. But
how hard is it to reattach parts of the hand? Because it's such a I mean, there's
constant movement.
Yeah, so much articulation and so much touch and so much we do with our hands. And I mean, if you look at the anatomy of a hand, it's like, good luck.
I would have thought, because there's more nerve endings in the feet than there are in the hands. I would think the feet would be as hard or harder. Does that not make a difference?
We don't. There are from just hearing that I think there's more nerve endings just because we're making more contact, but I'm actually not sure if that's the case. But I think that the foot, there's a lot more give. If you lose toes,
that's right.
You're not gonna.
Sure.
You're not.
We do
going to be able to engage in
right.
life.
So it's not as big of a deal. If my foot doesn't look as good, it doesn't move quite as good.
Plus, you're not playing a piano with your foot, and you're not picking up a fork with your foot.
And so when it comes to hands, now essentially, the hand is skin, and this is a different type of skin than the rest of your body. The soles and the hand. This is called glabrous skin. There's more nerve endings. There's different architecture to it. And so it's skin. Underneath it, there's actually a lot of muscles, small intrinsic hand muscles. There's nerve, there's bone, there's tendon. There's on this side, same thing, skin, tendon, bone, ligaments. All of these things, I do a lot of wide awake surgery. So if somebody comes in with a tendon cut, I'll numb their entire hand.
And do it while they're awake?
Do it while they're awake, so I can get the tendon to the right excursion. So
you can ask them to do something.
I ask them to open up, and if it's a little low, I'll tighten it up.
I see.
And so when you're watching this dance of extensor tendon with flexor tendon and just motion, it's hard not to be amazed. It just is, because it's like you said, it's so complex. And when these structures get cut, it's very, very hard to make perfect. But recently I had a patient, she's 20-something. She was, having a hard time, and she tried to kill herself. She took a box cutter and went right at her wrist longitudinally, so deep she cut the bone.
Ooh.
And what's interesting is I got the call in the middle of the night. I went over all the tendons, all the arteries, all the nerves, and I put them back together, spent all this time, and it looked really cool, really good repairs, went home, went to sleep. She came back in on a Wednesday, and I take care of a lot of these patients. Some of them don't even show up for follow-up because they're in their mind state. First thing she says is, "I'm really sorry." So, you don't have to be sorry. And she's like, no. I heard when you called you, your kids were crying. And it's the first time I've ever heard a patient say something like that. And I was like, listen, this person's different. And so to answer your question, the surgery part is challenging, but the stuff after is where it counts.
Sure.
So I knew this girl was different than the rest. So she was coming to therapy all the time. And it's really important because your body is not as smart as you think. When you fix a bone, the bone heals, but it scars everything else above it.
Right.
So you have to differentially move things. You guys know this when you train people. Body parts and muscles slide over each other, and if you're not aware of that,
it's not exactly like a puzzle.
It's not. And so the hand therapist is crucial in making sure the tendons move just enough so scar doesn't happen on the bones, and additional surgeries and function isn't limited.
How do you attach tendon? Is tendon to tendon or tendon to muscle harder to attach?
Tendon to muscle, because tendon to tendon, when you look at a tendon, this is also amazing. Look, you don't really see blood vessels with your eyes, but there are microscopic blood vessels there. And so you take a suture, so imagine a tendon in like this, you put a suture in like this, you wrap it around, and you have it come out this way, and you do the same format.
Oh, I see.
And then when you tighten it, it connects this way. And if you've seen a tendon, there's some substance to them.
Yeah.
Whereas muscle is just.
I was just going to say, how do you attach a tendon to a muscle?
So there are some techniques in the muscle. You can take a baseball stitch, and sometimes on if I have a loose piece of muscle like a lawnmower injuries, the muscle is cut You do a baseball stitch
And attached to the stitch.
Attached to the stitch, exactly.
Does it heal back just as strong?
It can.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's techniques you can do. You have some extraneous tendons in your body, like this tendon right here is called the palmaris. You can take that out
And use it.
and use it for grafting, and I do that all the time.
Why is it sometimes I see people will get a torn bicep and they just leave it torn and they don't pull the bicep back down and reattach it? Is it because it's like, waste of time, or?
There's a couple of reasons. One is you have another muscle, the brachialis, that can do that function.
Right.
Sometimes people are
So it's more aesthetic than anything.
well. One of the reasons it may not be possible. The tendon may be the tendinous portion may not be enough to implant back into the bone. But a lot of times people who have that will get that fixed. It's easier than like a pec, for example.
I was just going to say
a pec is really challenging to fix.
It typically tears up here in the armpit, and that's pretty difficult.
Yeah, because it's all muscle at that point.
Wow, that's interesting. That's fascinating. So, to me, the hands are so fascinating because what I was told, or not taught, because it's not something I learned necessarily, but when I would hear the surgeons that I trained, and I never trained a hand surgeon, but I did train general surgeon, vascular surgeon, a lot of anesthesiologists. They would talk about how like the hands were just like, that's tough. That's really, really tough because of just all the moving parts and how intricate the hands are and how much feel there is. And so that's got to be one of the more difficult areas too.
Hand is very challenging. And really when we're on call for hand, if the artery is cut, you have like 4 to 6 hours before they start losing tissue and getting necrotic, things like that. If the nerve is cut, you have like 12 to 18 months after you repair to see if it'll come back. So the nerve is actually one of the most, like if there's an injury there.
Like resilient?
No, it's actually if you cut like the median nerve or one of the major nerves, that's what really dictates your function.
Yeah, if there's no nerve, there's no juice moving to the muscle.
And so sensation, motion, like you said, and where you cut it makes a difference. If you cut a nerve up here, the chance of you getting sensation and feeling in your arm and your hand is much less than if you cut it here.
I love asking doctors, especially surgeons, this question. What are some of the characteristics that you notice in patients who seem to do the best? Are there personality traits or characteristics?
Or what about like healthy bodies? Like when you're working 100%. On somebody who's fit and strong and healthy versus somebody that's not. I bet that makes a difference.
100%. And I talk about this a lot with my colleagues. Like I'm sure you noticed and I noticed, a lot of doctors aren't the healthiest. And it's not that they don't want to be healthy. There's something in the culture of medical school, of training, where you give everything.
You sacrifice your health.
You sacrifice everything.
Your
At
sleep,
some point,
your health, your diet, everything.
At some point you'll get to it. I've never been that way. I've always really felt that it's a sport. And for me to perform in the operating room, I have to be mobile, I have to be strong, I have to be able to. And so I train every morning at 4:50, train today. And so I think that when I have a patient, I try to convey the importance of that. Part of it is, hey, listen, you're going to get through this and you're going to crush therapy. You're going to get your function back. You're going to be able to hold your kids. You're going to be able to work. Here's what I need from you. I need you to think positively. Like I'm a scientist when it comes down to it, but I'm also very holistic. Like my family is generations of Ayurvedic medicine, things like that. Positivity, what you think manifests itself. Like there's so many times where I'm like, you know what? This is going to be okay. And it's okay.
Have you seen the correlation between like depression and autoimmune disease? And they've actually been able to see that the depression leads to more autoimmune disease, not necessarily.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if the immune system responds because of this, like, you focus on how much you hate yourself so much. I wonder if the immune system starts to react.
There's some truth to that. Like, so when we do these big cases, like, a piece of tissue here put on somebody's neck. We're actually doing a huge one on Friday, covering somebody's brain with their latissimus muscle. Me and Lily are going to do that. What we do is the scientific portion is the surgery. Goes really well.
Right.
Then all the other stuff. No chocolate, because after surgery, there's a risk of chocolate causing vasoconstriction, which is the blood vessels shut down and close up. Coffee, There's some risk of coffee causing that. We put them in a room with a window so that they can have a circadian rhythm. We make sure that their family isn't like stressing them out. We don't want epinephrine in there to shut down those blood vessels. Sometimes I'll give them a book and I'll say, hey, they'll find out what they like to do.
Do you guys use PDE5 inhibitors for blood flow during surgeries?
Like which one?
Like Viagra, Cialis. Would those help, or is that
so? We do some medications like lidocaine, for example, and papaverine. These are medications that take out what's called vasospasm. When you touch a blood vessel, there's a nervous system on every blood vessel. That's how you do a cold plunge or a sauna. That's how you dilate and constrict. This can be harmful when you're doing these surgeries because it can all of a sudden constrict, and then your whole flap the piece of tissue is clotted off. So putting these medications gives you a temporary window where you can sew it and allow for blood flow back and forth. And I mean, there's a very holistic approach to this too, besides the scientific part. Patients who come in that are positive, I've seen somebody that has a horrendous injury with a positive attitude do really well versus somebody who doesn't have such a bad injury but has a negative attitude and doesn't feel like they're going to succeed, do poorly. And it's with work too. Like if there's a study with hand, if you're out of work for like something like 3 weeks, the chance of you going back to work is like single digits.
Do you have any favorite partners that you work with? Like, do you need to work? Do you work closely with other practitioners, like, other doctors that aren't doing what you do, but you're like, hey, you go to this guy because I work very well with them and we work together?
Well, part of plastic surgery, which is really cool, is a lot of the work we do is somewhat unpredictable. And like we'll be on call and the orthopedic surgeon's like, hey man, can you come to room 4? And you come in. Hey, we took out the tumor and there's a lot of tibia exposed. Can we figure out a plan?
Oh, right.
And so
they call you in.
They call us in. So neurosurgeons, when they do spinal surgery and they put a bunch of hardware in, instead of just closing up, they'll call us in to use the muscles to cover the hardware. So if any infection gets in, it doesn't cause a hardware infection. So routinely we'll get called, hey, we're unable to close over the scalp. Are you guys available to just one of you guys? And there's always an on-call, one of us. Right now it's Lily. Can you come by to room 8 and just see what needs to be done? And so we'll figure something out.
Is there a typical time frame? Because I remember when I just out of high school, we went for our senior trip to Hawaii, my friends and I. It was the beginning of the week, and my buddy gets drunk and gets in a fight, and this dude split his lip all the way from the bottom of his nose, flayed it wide open. And we had to rush him to the hospital, and they actually had to wake up a plastic surgeon and fly him in or something like that to come do the work like in the middle of the night. Is there certain body parts or certain types of injuries that you've got a small window that you've got to attack it if you're going to save it or be able to reconstruct it? Like, or is it different, or is it kind of universal? Like you got a certain window, pretty much anything if you want me to be able to save that limb or part or.
Yeah. So with nerves that are motor, so there's sensory nerves.
Yeah.
You touch something, you feel it, and then there's motor. Motor nerves, when they're cut, you really want to get to them within a couple of days, like soon, because once they're cut, the end point, so your nerve is like this, there's an end point that accepts the signals. The end point's like, I'm not getting signals.
It shuts off.
It shuts off and it starts turning into scar over time. So you don't want that to happen like in your hand and stuff like that. So that's, if somebody tells you, hey, this guy came in with a samurai cut to his wrist, he has no function of his hand, we're taking that to the OR that night, we're going to fix the nerve. The artery's another thing. If blood flow is not there, we're going to fix that right away. But like a lip, for example, that's often done emergently, at least we do it, because if you wait too long, the swelling is so hard to really approximate and get get
it to line up just right.
Get it to line up just right.
Okay, that's why they were.
So we'll often do that like at the time, but that can wait. That's something that you can wait.
Like
on.
As far as health and survival, but for aesthetic reasons, that's why they did it so. Because I remember the next day his shit was like this.
Yeah,
I mean I'd never
it's
seen
so swollen.
I'd
it's
never
really
seen
hard,
like
and
that.
at that point you have to go back and try to line. It's just logistically it's easier. And it's better for the patient. Nobody wants to
Always
sit
wondered
at
that
night.
because I didn't think it was like a life or death thing, but it's like, man, it was very urgent. They flew someone in; it was a big deal.
Any interesting new technologies in what you're doing? Because I see articles, and I'm sure it's years out, but they're like, you could grow, from your own
Like
stem
3D
cells a nose,
printed
or
or
your own
anything like
this, or your own that. Like, is that all kind of on the horizon?
A lot of it's on the horizon. One of the cool things we do is when we take skin, there's the creation of skin where in that, a company that like I talked to you about sends it back in 3 weeks. But you can also take skin and scrape off some of the cells like the epithelium and put it into a solution that we do at the bedside. Oh, not in the operating room, but like we're kind of making it with saline and things like that. And for facial burns, for example, a common burn that we get is the older person who is on oxygen, but decides to smoke a cigarette.
Oh, lights it on fire.
And they have a facial burn. Happens every week.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so that skin it's very superficial often, and so that'll come off. And when you spray this solution, it can help regenerate to the point where there's new data coming out that for people like me who have melanin, it can restore melanin into some of these burns, because that's one of the things that if I had a burn, I'd lose my melanin with some of the skin grafts and things like that. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, there's cool things happening in surgery, like the robot. I'm sure you've heard of that. They're using robotic surgery for head and neck they're trying to incorporate into different aspects of plastic surgery. I mean, AI is pretty cool.
I know it's just how would you use, because obviously the skill of the hand for you to do so many things, I think, and then the real-time pivots, human is so important. But I got to imagine there's got to be ways that you could plug something into AI and like, if we do this, what are the potential outcomes? If we do this, and then like, do you use it like that already, or will you like, what do you see?
Not yet. I mean, for surgeons to say that AI won't replace them is, I think, ego. And the reason why I say that is because for a product to do well, you probably need it to be good like 80% of the time. Now, when you have surgery with me, I'm going to treat you like a family member. I'm going to give you every drop of my brain and sweat and hands to make sure that the outcome you have is the best. Now, is that necessary for you to be functional? I don't know. Now, this is where AI may come in and say, hey, what he does, that extra 20% is not necessary for me to be functional.
For all these
health insurance pays this. And so that's what I'm a little worried about. But at the end of the day, there are nuanced things that we do that I just don't know how, based on this, I'm reacting this way. I don't know if that's something that AI can pick up. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
interesting. Yeah. Do you? Because I know you're in medicine. You have to be so specialized. You have to know it so deep, and sometimes there isn't like that cross communication. When it comes to like the face, do you ever work with neurologists with like when people have things like trigeminal neuralgia or pain, and then do you guys work together and kind of learn from each other? Like, what does that look like with you guys at that level? Do you guys all sit down and go, all right, let's talk about these things?
We do. I mean, we have, not with the neurologist, but like part of the burn team is every Wednesday we have a multidisciplinary team rounds.
Okay, cool.
So on that rounds, we talk about every patient, it's sometimes 50 patients. And the people there are case managers, social worker, trauma, ICU, dietitian, pharmacy.
Oh, wow.
And it's long. We go and everybody says something.
Oh, wow.
And then we get really great care that way. And that's why burn units are really important, because not just a surgeon doing some skin grafts, it's a multidisciplinary approach. But, an example of that is, we work with neurology in the sense that there's a cool surgery that we do for headaches, where neurology, there's, for example, occipital pain. They're injecting Botox, they're injecting steroids, and there's no relief.
Yeah.
And so we get them as kind of a last resort, put some lidocaine into that area, and if their pain is resolved, we know the maybe there's an option for surgery here. And so we'll make an incision down the middle of the scalp. We'll raise the tissue up, and there's 3 nerves here, the occipital nerves and the third occipital nerve, and the greater and lesser occipital nerve and the third, they're like kind of like this, 3 on each side. And all we do is we find them and we free the compressing tissue over them. Sometimes it could be from a trauma, whiplash. Sometimes it could be a blood vessel that's pulsating on it.
That's got to be life-changing for somebody who suffers from like chronic headaches all the time.
I had a patient once that I did this procedure on. She had the procedure. I'm operating in another room, and the nurse is like, "Hey, you need to go talk to that patient." I'm like, "Oh no, what's going on?" I go back, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "This is the first time I have 0 pain. I don't know if you know, but I was so suicidal." So I mean that gives you a lot of just satisfaction, and it's a challenging surgery, but it's not like putting a face back together. And this thing that you kind of think, you're on the next case. It's made such a difference just releasing tissue on a compressed nerve.
Do you get more? It sounds like you do. I think I already know the answer, but do you get the harder the case is it like the more exciting for you?
Yeah.
Or you're like, okay, this is
like
a tough
the challenge.
one.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting.
I think that, I think that really is, as much as we get older, my family's my number one priority. And when we didn't have kids, that's all I wanted was the hardest case. Be the biggest badass, tell everybody, like, this is what we do, because we were trying to build a name for ourselves. And I'm still that way. I still want challenging cases. But what you start noticing is what is a big case to you is a big case for anyone undergoing surgery, whether it's a carpal tunnel.
Sure. For them, it's always.
Yeah, they're not sleeping.
Right.
That, it's
or like the headache person. Like, that's life-changing. She was suicidal. You saved her life.
Or a trigger finger.
Right.
Like, I think it takes 1-2 minutes to do a trigger finger, and people come back and like, now I can like move my hand. Now I can hunt. Now I can fly fish. Now I can do all these things, Wow. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. How do you guys balance family? Because you're both surgeons.
Yeah.
And you got kids. What does that look like?
It's hard, man. It's I don't think there is balance like in life. As much as I want to say, everyone wants to get balance. I think there's points in your life where you're focused on certain things and points in your life where you're not. And like I said, I had this, I don't want to say it's unhealthy, this just drive to be the best resident, be the best technically, figure out all about surgery until my first son was born. I saw him, and it's just like, I was like, things got to change now.
Yeah.
And that I remember the moment I'm holding him, and I'm like, I got to make sure, like, you're okay.
Doing what you do, would you encourage your sons to go into the same field? Or because sometimes people will do something that's very challenging. They're like, I love it, but I don't want my kids to do it because it's just a lot.
So I used to say I don't want them to do it because the pathway was so hard. It's not just the years of schooling. You lose friends. Your parents are like, hey, we're having this event. You can't come. Yeah. Or, I remember Thanksgiving where I had the day off and I'm at Thanksgiving and I'm a resident and the resident who was there was sick and the attending's like, dude, you need to come in. So you just go in. And there's a lot of sacrifice to that. So unless you truly love it, and I'm going to gauge that with my kids, unless they like really love it, I think there's other ways to be successful in life. Yeah. And you really have to, I feel very fortunate because I'm friends with a lot of doctors and I love what I do. I love it. I love it to the 10th exponential, whatever. A lot of my friends, they don't love it. They're burnt out. They're trying to get out. They're looking for side hustles. They're doing all this stuff. At its core, surgery and plastic reconstructive surgery and aesthetic surgery, I love it. Now, do I like notes and do I like the healthcare system and no, but the job itself, it's amazing to go meet patients, talk to them, hear the changes you can make, and ultimately like share that with your loved one. Like my wife, we talk about this stuff.
I'm like, what's a date like? Look,
now it's not as much. Like back in the day before the kids, we
all you talked about
rules.
yeah. I mean, the OR used to, when we got to our hospital, the OR was upset because they'd hear us fighting, and we're not fighting. We're like
arguing about family.
I'm like, Lily, we should go to the facial artery. She's like, dumbass, go to the thyroid artery. It's bigger and better. And the OR's like, oh my god, they're fighting. And we're just like talking it out.
Communicate on another level than that.
And we're like looking at each other like this over the microscope, like, and they're getting uncomfortable.
Are you guys ever like in the middle of the OR? You're doing something, you look up, you're like, I love you, honey. I love you.
Absolutely.
Great stitch.
The crazy story about Lillian, I mean, she's beautiful. She's a double board certified surgeon. She's an amazing mom. So when she was pregnant, she worked until like 9 months, right? She calls me. I'm in a flap. I'm doing this big procedure. She's covering somebody's brain. And she calls me and she's like, hey. I'm like, what's up, Lily? She's like, my water broke.
Mid-surgery?
Mid-surgery.
Shut your face. She was doing surgery still.
And so I'm like, I didn't even know what that meant because he's 5 weeks early.
Oh, he's early. That's why. Okay.
And so I'm like, oh my God, what do I, like, I'm, going from being a married guy with no kids to that moment, I know this is happening. I'm like, Lily, I'm in the middle of a case. She's like, don't worry, I'm going to drive myself. I'm like, no, you gotta find somebody. She's like, no, I'm going to drive. So she drove herself.
Gangster.
And has a C-section the next morning. Kid is fine. And we have to take our handboards. We were supposed to have like this later, but the timing of the kid made it so that she had just gotten the C-section and 2 days later, she's taking her handboards. And she's on pain meds. She's on all this stuff. And we're in the Prometric Test Center. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a test center like that, but there's a computer here and a computer here. And I look, and I get up during the break. She's asleep. I kick her chair. I'm like, get up. And she comes up to me. She's like, I left 10 blank. I'm like, holy crap. Because I felt decent about it that I passed it. And I was like, man, hope she doesn't not pass it because this is not fair.
She do better than you.
10 points high. 10 points high.
10 less questions.
10 points.
I do it.
You'll hold that over you forever.
Yeah, she does.
That's great. Any hobbies outside of work and
Absolutely,
family?
man. Fitness has been huge for me. I remember 4th grade, I was like kind of chubby, and I had a cousin, Basil. This kid, just a beast, just an athlete from the get-go. He August 15th, 4th grade, 6:30. He taught me my first sit-up. I remember the time because I looked at the clock when I was doing it. I couldn't even do it. He was pulling me up. And so I just started really getting into it. At that time, it's like Muscle Fitness and, you're watching Predator and Rambo and all of these idols that don't look like the people now. But that's who I wanted to be. And in the Indian community, it wasn't like normal to play sports. Like I didn't know anyone. Basil ran track. I played football. I worked out. He worked out with me. And I remember doing push-ups. And finally, like, my cephalic vein came. And I was like,
I got a vein.
Yeah. And so it was huge for me. I mean, all throughout high school, we opened the first real gym in our high school. Me and I'll give them a shout out, Sean Leonardo and Harold Riggs. These were high school, but they are high school buddies of mine that we'd come. In high school at 5:30 in the morning to just work out. And then in college playing football, that was awesome. And training is a huge part of my life.
How much of an advantage, I trained a lot. At one point, I trained a lot of surgeons, and they would tell me how that would make them better at their job.
100%.
Yeah, how much of an advantage is it?
It's night and day.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Why? Because especially if you're a surgeon, especially if you're new, the schedule can be crazy. Yeah. And so the thought is, I'm going to take time out to go work out. I'm so fried, or I don't know. Like, talk about the advantage of being fit for what you do.
I used to do the evening workout, and then I realized I was missing out on kid time. So we make our life, at that time, now we don't need this nanny. We had a nanny come at 5 in the morning so I could get to the gym downstairs. We built a gym, 4:50 in the morning. I'm doing. I sit in the. We have an infrared sauna. I'd sit in there, just kind of loosen up, then do like a pretty powerful push-pull workout, and I would always try to sprint at the end. And part of it is when you go to the operating room, you're contorting your body in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And it's not unusual for surgeons to pull their back doing something stupid and be out, or they hurt their neck. And so for me, part of it is that, but it's a mental edge too, because I also do cold plunge and sauna. I've done that for 27 years, cold plunging. And that really, when you do that in the morning, the rest of the day is easy for me.
Yeah.
You know,
if you start out with something that sucks that bad.
Something that, embrace the suck, right? Like, so if you,
to that for sure.
If you do that, the rest of the day is it gives you a mental edge in surgery. It lets you think clearer. I typically don't eat breakfast because I found that if I eat a big breakfast, I'm a little bit shaky.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I like to be super stable. Don't eat breakfast. At around 11 or 12 or 10, I'll take a huge protein bolus, and then I'll keep that going for the day.
Yeah. What's the longest you've been in the OR where you're working on somebody?
43 hours.
Okay, 43 hours straight?
43 hours straight.
So hold on a second. So this is stuff that always blows me away. And the first time I understood this, I was training a general surgeon who had done a Whipple procedure, and she was in the hospital. She was in the OR for hours and hours and hours. And my question is always like, what if you got to go to the bathroom? Like, what do you do?
You take breaks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. How do you do that? Do you go take a nap? Because it's 43 hours.
No, never. So this was a very unusual case that will never happen.
How many Red Bulls are you drinking? Like, what do you do?
No, I don't, because you don't want to shake.
Oh, that's right.
And so this was a case that I was the chief resident, and there was an attending there, and it was a mandibular reconstruction, same like this leg was being used, and very detailed attending. It took a long time to get this leg out, and put it on one side of the neck. The vessels didn't work. Then tried a different vessel, didn't work. And then now you're like doing the other leg, and finally it worked. And it took, I'm not kidding you, it took 43 hours. And so in between, I took like, I don't know, 5 or 6 breaks, not long, ate something, came back. And then there's residents that are coming in between.
And you're not sleeping?
No.
That's crazy.
The
Do you feel?
That was also like a long time ago. That's like 20.
Well, hold on. So I'm gonna
now
ask
I'm like,
so I'm gonna ask you a controversial
doing a carpal
question.
tunnel, falling asleep.
This might be a little controversial, but I know that now when you're a resident, when you're out there, you're trying.
Sure.
They now have limitations on how long they'll let you work and stuff. I've heard arguments on both sides. One side says, we got to put limitations because there's only so much they can learn, and there's a lot of mistakes. The other side says you got to go through the crap because sometimes you'll be in the OR for hours and hours and hours. Where do you stand on it? Do you think that they've made it too easy?
So I went through the older pathway where my first year there wasn't any restrictions at all.
Yeah.
And my residency was a little bit slow to keep the restrictions in the beginning. Now it's very regular. Now here's what I have to say about it. There's literature that shows when you're tired, you are essentially drunk.
Right.
Yeah. And you can't be that way.
Right.
But at the same time, not everything happens between 9 and 5 o'clock. A lot of stuff happens in the middle of the night.
Right.
At this time, at that time.
Right.
And so I think we have to find a happy medium, because there's an extreme where you're in the hospital 43 hours, which is not, I don't think that's right.
Right.
But then people are being pulled out of a case that they're in because they're over hours. So what I tend to find is a lot of these newer surgeons that have problems are finding people like myself and sending patients to us because we've had that experience and we have that, it's almost like a discipline.
Here's my, I have an opinion. I would love your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I think that there are people that are not like the average person that can operate better than the average person under a lot of sleep restriction or stress. And I feel like you kind of want that process to whittle down to the people that can do that. And maybe that's what it serves. Maybe that's kind of what it serves because there's going to be situations where hey, I know when you went through residency, we had all these regulations and, and rules, but out here, there are going to be times when you're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to perform. And we don't want the people who can't perform when they're under that stress.
It's hard to know yourself like that. I'm one of those people. Like, I feel like my entire life, I've really, when I like something, I love it and I focus on it. And in the operating room, when you're there, you're in flow state. All that matters is you're going to get this patient that right outcome, get them off the table. They're going to be alive. They're going to be safe. Right. And you don't like sit there and
you're not
an hour passed.
Yeah, you're not clock watching.
No, you're getting it done. And afterwards, that's when you're like sitting at the computer trying to finish the note and you're out. You're dead. And so I think that there is truth to that. I think that you have to know the kind of surgeon you are. Are you the surgeon that wants to do 5 or 6 small cases and be done? Or do you want to be the person that is the end of the line, that if it doesn't work, this person gets an amputation? And that's kind of the mentality I am. Yeah. And so to hone that and do that, it's not just being in the OR. It's some of the jobs I've worked in. I used to do an inventory job that I would work 24 hours straight. I used to, like study for hours on end. All of those things build muscle.
Yeah.
This discipline muscle. And so this is something that I really believe about surgeons. You can't be a sloppy person and be expected to be this neat, awesome surgeon. You can't be a bad person who cheats on certain things and then be a great surgeon, right? Because your natural tendency is to fall back into that when stress happens. So if you're a cheater and you have a corner to cut in surgery, human nature is to cut that corner. So I really feel like when you talk about training, when you talk about family, you talk about finances, they're all interrelated. You have to really think about them in the same way. So I think that type of surgeon, it's a little taboo to promote that this day.
I knew it was controversial.
But that's who I want as my surgeon.
Yeah.
I want the guy or girl that has seen it all, have, by being in the hospital, by working hard, by reading, by understanding the pathology, they have the experience and they can adjust.
Is this where the reputation, you actually said it earlier, the surgeons were kind of like these jerks that walked around like that. Is that where that reputation comes from? Because they're like so focused. And so if you don't understand that, they can seem like they're just...
it was brutal residency I had it tough, but even further back, it was harder. Like they called it residency because you lived there.
Oh yeah.
And so these people were there was no attending student, and none of this is right. There was no attending supervision for some of these people. They were operating on people trying to figure things out on their own. They're having family strife. And so this gets manifested in being mean to a medical student.
I trained a woman who was a general surgeon, but she was, so this was 15 years ago. She was already in her early to mid 60s. And the other surgeons would talk about her because they're like, you don't know. They're like, when she went through, back when she did, it was much harder, and it was harder for a woman to go and do what she did.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why she's such a badass. And so they would just talk about this woman like she was. And she was incredible.
I see that with Lily. Like, it's a very male-dominated sport, even now. And in her training, she was in one of the roughest places in Newark, New Jersey, and she's this amazing surgeon, but she always dressed up. She never looked sloppy. She always was positive. And if she ever acted assertive, they said that she was being a bee. Not.
You got to be though.
Yeah, and you have to control your own destiny. You have to make sure that who's going to advocate for you more than yourself. So she really was a proponent for herself, and that's why she was successful. But that's swimming upstream, and so I think it's harder.
Have you seen that translate into her being a mother? I bet she's a badass mom.
She's an amazing mom. She and we have 2 boys, and they're crazy boys. They're like 4 and 7, and they do things that, you know, I fly fish. I've been doing it for 15 years. Lily got me into that. She was doing it for 30 years, but I never grew up doing that stuff. And my 7-year-old, he catches trout on 3 flies. He skis blacks. I never skied until 2 years ago. And so she's really big on giving them these experiences. If it's up to me, they'll like, you know, they'll hang out with me. I'll do the stuff, but I won't be thinking about, okay, let's go on a Disney cruise or let's, you know, go to Costa Rica and visit the Osa Peninsula with the boys. It'll be nice for them to see birds of prey, you know, like things like that. And so she's a badass mom. I mean, I've heard about your wives, and they're the similar DNA amongst them with high functioning husbands.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you making the time to come over here, man. I know you're real busy.
Yeah.
It was really awesome meeting you at the Peptide Congress.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, yeah, this was a interesting, fascinating conversation. So
yeah, man.
Appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Absolutely, man. I'm really honored, and let me know if you guys ever have. You guys can get my cell number if you guys have hand
I hope
issues.
we never have to call you.
No,
but if we do, you're the man I'm calling.
Something happens.
Like you for sure.
No, but the cool thing is, like, who you see on the billboards is not necessarily always the best person for things. And so doctors are connected with who they would go to. So take down my cell number if you guys have, I have a lot of friends and family out in Cali. And so
Awesome.
if you have issues or if you're worried about something, let me know.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Benson. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Thank you, guys.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. One of the keys to fat loss is protein. It's true. If you're not eating a high protein diet, you're not going to burn as much body fat as you can. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the smartest ways to use protein for fat burn and to build muscle. You got to watch this.
I wish I understood this earlier in my career. I think it was probably almost 10 years in when I started to just focus on this with clients.
I knew it was important,
Yeah.
but I don't know how important.
Yeah, I also did. I knew it was important, but I also didn't